It started like any other July morning in the Rockies. Crisp air, sunlight filtering through pine branches, and the distant sound of rushing water. But by nightfall, Kara Whitmore, 32, and her 3-year-old son Jacob were gone. No calls, no signs of struggle, not even footprints in the soft earth around their campsite. They were last seen by a fellow hiker, smiling, walking hand in hand into the forest near Elk Crest Trail, a place known for breathtaking views and legends locals didn't speak of after dark. Search crews combed 50 square miles. Drones, dogs, thermal scopes, nothing. The case froze over until 6 years later when a boy's shoe was found wedged inside a rock crevice 3 miles off trail, and DNA on it changed everything. What happened to Kara and Jacob in the Rockies? And why are locals still afraid to speak about what the rescue dogs found next? Kara Whitmore wasn't reckless. She was a devoted single mom, a second-grade teacher, and a seasoned weekend hiker who found peace in the silence of the trees. After her divorce 2 years earlier, she found solace in nature. Just her son Jacob, and the mountains that never judged. That July weekend in 2017, Kara had taken Jacob on a 3-day camping trip to Elk Crest Ridge in the southern Colorado Rockies. It was supposed to be their first solo trip since moving to Pueblo from Denver the previous spring. She'd picked a moderately trafficked trail, registered with the ranger station, and even texted her sister a photo of Jacob with his oversized backpack. "We made it. Wish us luck." Jacob was a curious, happy toddler. Big eyes, messy curls, and a laugh that echoed through trees. Kara documented their hike in her trail journal. Camp set. Jacob asked if bears were pajamas. He's not wrong. They camped in a designated backcountry site about 2 miles off Elk Crest Trail, spot C-17. The ranger on duty, Officer Luis Campos, confirmed her trailhead sign-in at 9:07 a.m. on July 14th. A nearby couple, the Fletchers, remembered seeing them at around noon. "Little boy had a toy dinosaur he was making footprints with," said Emily Fletcher. The mom looked relaxed, like she belonged there. Nothing about that day stood out. Until Sunday morning, when Kara and Jacob missed their scheduled checkout at the ranger station. At first, no one panicked. Weather was clear, and sometimes hikers lost track of time. But by nightfall, Kara's sister Megan reported her missing. She hadn't responded to any texts since Friday afternoon. The next 72 hours unraveled into chaos. Search and rescue was deployed by midnight. Over 60 volunteers, 2 canine units, 3 helicopters, and dozens of local hikers scanned the area. Kara's tent was found abandoned at C-17. Unzipped, sleeping bags undisturbed, supplies untouched. It was as if she'd stepped out for water and never came back. Oddly, the fire pit was still warm, meaning whatever happened did so recently. But here's what sent a chill down investigators' spines. Jacob's favorite toy dinosaur was found 30 feet away from camp, half buried in the dirt near a trail that led deeper into the woods, one not marked on official maps. Why was Jacob's toy so far from camp, near an unmarked trail that no locals claim to have ever used? Deputy Sheriff Tom Ridley, the lead on the search, later said in a press conference, "It's like they were plucked out of thin air. No signs of struggle. No tracks going out. Just gone." The public speculated wildly. Kidnapping. Animal attack. Even supernatural theories surfaced. Whispers about the Elk Crest ghost path, something teenagers once joked about to scare campers. But nothing ever proved fruitful. A ranger named Owen Price, now retired, later shared off-record, "That ridge? It's old land. Real old. And people who go missing there don't usually come back." Within 2 weeks, the search scaled back. After 41 days, it was closed. Kara Whitmore and Jacob were declared presumed dead by fall. But neither Kara's body nor Jacob's were ever found. 6 years of silence. No sightings, no leads, until a forgotten crevice, sealed by snow for half a decade, cracked open during a rock slide, and what lay inside reignited the nightmare. July 16th, 2017, 5:47 a.m. Dispatch log number 428, Pueblo County Sheriff's Office caller. Megan Whitmore, sister, message. "My sister and her 3-year-old son went hiking 2 days ago and haven't checked in. She was supposed to be back yesterday. Sheriff's Deputy Tom Ridley had been on the force nearly 20 years. He'd handled missing hikers, frostbite rescues, and the occasional bear scare. But something about the urgency in Megan's voice made him drive out to the Elk Crest Ranger Station before his first cup of coffee. Ranger Luis Campos confirmed that Kara had signed in at the Elk Crest trailhead 2 days prior. Destination marked as C-17, a moderate campsite 2 miles in. She was supposed to check out by 5 p.m. Saturday. She seemed experienced, Campos recalled. Had a proper topo map. Even asked if we'd had recent cougar sightings. Most people don't think to ask that. Deputy Ridley authorized an initial sweep. A ranger and a SAR, search and rescue, volunteer hiked to C-17 by noon. That's when things started to unravel. The tent was still pitched. Kara's backpack lay against a pine stump, half-zipped, with 2 granola bars and a first aid kit inside. Jacob's tiny sleeping bag was still laid out neatly, stuffed with his fleece dinosaur pajamas. The campfire was cold, but clearly used recently. No blood, no broken branches, no drag marks, no prints leading away. What was odd was the unnatural stillness of it all, as if someone hit pause. Further away, 30 feet to the east, the first real clue surfaced, a green rubber toy dinosaur, missing one leg, half buried in damp soil. Jacob's favorite. Megan later identified it from photos. But the truly unsettling part? The soil it was buried in didn't match the surrounding dirt. It had been packed deliberately, almost like someone tried to hide it. Why would a 3-year-old bury his own toy? Or did someone else do it, trying to erase his presence? July 17, 2017. Full search deployed by the next day. Search and rescue was in full swing. 3 K-9 teams, including 1 bloodhound, Daisy, and a GSD named Rex. 2 helicopters with thermal imaging, dozens of SAR volunteers, mounted patrols from the nearby Bighorn Ridge Stables. Drones were deployed over a 6-mile radius. But the dense pine cover limited their effectiveness. Cadaver dogs picked up a weak scent trail east of the campsite, toward a ravine known as Dead Man's Gulch, though maps referred to it by the more official name, Maple Fork Hollow, a name that sounded innocent until you heard the stories. Dead Man's Gulch, yeah, that place eats people. It's steep, quiet. Sound doesn't carry. We've had hikers fall, vanish. Years later, a shoe or rib bone shows up during a storm. Locals used to warn kids not to follow the stream into it. Said it doesn't give you back. But the ravine was scoured. Rangers rappelled down, combed every ledge and cave. No bodies, no backpacks, no clothing, nothing, except one thing. Near the base of the gulch, pinned between 2 boulders, a piece of fabric was found, a strip of pink nylon with a small dinosaur print. Megan confirmed it belonged to Jacob's toddler hiking pants. If Jacob's pants tore near the bottom of the gulch, where was the rest of him? And where was Kara? Inside Kara's backpack was her trail journal. Most entries were normal, but the last one, dated July 14th at 8:42 p.m., was chilling. Jacob's been hearing something. He calls it the man in the trees. I think it's just wind. I told him trees creak sometimes when they sleep. He said, "No, Mama. He's behind your back." No sign of anyone had been seen in the area by other hikers that day. But trail cams mounted near the eastern tree line of the ridge showed something strange. Footage from July 14th, 7:58 p.m. A brief, indistinct blur in the background. Movement behind a cluster of trees. No heat signature was recorded, but the shape was tall, thin, not an animal. The footage was inconclusive, but it raised another question. Was Kara being watched? And if so, by who? Case suspended pending new evidence. No signs of foul play. No remains recovered. Presumed accidental death due to environmental hazard or wildlife encounter. Both Kara Whitmore and Jacob Whitmore remain missing. But Megan refused to let it go. Every month for the next 6 years, she posted to missing persons boards, shared their photos on forums called Back Detectives. No new tips ever came, until the summer of 2023. A freak rock slide cracked open part of Dead Man's Gulch, exposing a forgotten crevice. Inside it, a child's shoe. Tucked in the laces, something that shouldn't have survived 6 winters. a plastic hair clip Kara used to wear on her wrist. August 11th, 2023, 6 years later the Rockies were on fire again. Dry heat, crackling winds, and a thunderstorm that rolled in and split apart a sheer cliff wall in Dead Man's Gulch like it was paper. Boulders tumbled into the trees, ripping through the forest with a groaning sound like the mountains themselves were coughing up secrets. In the aftermath, Park Services sent a small geological team to inspect the damage and stabilize the ridge for fall hikers. That's when they found it. Half buried in a crevice, wedged beneath a layer of moss and soot-black stone, was a small, tattered child's shoe. Green and gray. Velcro strap, dinosaur motif. At first glance, it looked like any other bit of lost trash, until the geologist pulled it free and found a tiny plastic pink hair clip clinging to the strap, warped but still intact. He almost left it, but something about the shoe stuck with him. Something familiar. He Googled missing child Rockies on his phone. Within seconds, the Whitmore case surfaced. And there, in a 6-year-old photo, Jacob Whitmore, smiling, wearing those exact shoes. He called in. The shoe had no blood, no bone inside it, but the DNA on the tongue of the shoe, the spot where Jacob's name had been written in faded Sharpie, was a match. Jacob Whitmore, 99.98% confidence. August 13th, 2023. Pueblo Sheriff's Office Detective Riley Carver was barely a year into his transfer from Denver PD's Cold Cases Division. He was younger than most of the department's veterans, but meticulous, more analyst than cowboy. When the shoe was confirmed to be Jacob's, Carver reviewed the Whitmore file obsessively. It was a ghost story. No struggle, no blood, no real trail. But something about the case gnawed at him. The shoe had clearly been tucked into the crevice, not washed in by rain or scattered by wildlife. Its placement felt deliberate, as if someone had hidden it, then forgot where. He visited the site himself. The crevice had been buried under a slanted wall of rock, inaccessible without climbing gear. The area around it was unnatural, rocks jammed together, not by erosion, but by intent, like someone had tried to close the gap. Carver crouched down and brushed away more soil. There, beneath a flat stone shelf, was a second item, a laminated visitor's pass from Elk Crest Trailhead Station. Smeared, waterlogged, but with a readable name, Kara Whitmore. Date, July 14th, 2017. August 15th, 2023. Megan gets the call Megan hadn't let go. She just learned to pretend. She was remarried now, a stepmom, a dental hygienist in Colorado Springs. The world had moved on, but some nights she still slept with Kara's flannel hoodie under her pillow. When the call came in, she knew. The tone in Detective Carver's voice. The breath he took before saying, "We found something," told her this wasn't a prank. "We're asking if you'd be willing to revisit the site," Carver said. "I want you to see where the items were found. Something feels off. I'd like your opinion on some photos Kara took before the trip." She said yes before he finished asking. August 17th, 2023. Return to Elk Crest. The air smelled the same. Pine, smoke, and something older. Megan stood in front of the ruins of Camp C-17. Its fire pit long buried, tent posts rusted into the soil. But something was off. It wasn't grief, it was instinct. A familiar panic rising again. She never would have gone toward that gulch, Megan whispered, more to herself than Carver. Kara hated cliffs. She had vertigo. She wouldn't have wandered down there, even if Jacob had run off. Could someone have lured her? Carver asked. She was careful, too careful, especially after Jacob started talking about things. Carver paused. Things? He used to tell stories. About a man in the forest. A shadow he'd see sometimes. Kara thought it was just toddler nightmares. But Jacob was insistent. He said the man didn't make footsteps. A child's fear can be dismissed. But 6 years later, when you find that same child's shoe sealed in a place only a person could hide it, those fears start to whisper truths. The photo clue Kara had taken photos during her hike. Some are retrieved from her iCloud. Simple shots, trees, flowers, Jacob crossing a log. But one photo, time-stamped 6:47 p.m. on July 14th, had gone unnoticed. It was a blurry, low-light image, probably accidental. But in the lower left corner, Behind a tree trunk, Carver noticed a figure. Not clearly visible, not defined, just a shape. Long arms, slanted posture. Unnatural. Enhancing the image showed an outline that didn't match local fauna. Carver showed it to a wildlife ranger. That's not a bear, not a cougar. Whatever that is, it's standing upright. The ranger paused, then muttered, "Looks like one of those old stories." What stories? There's talk, just talk about something called a lure. A presence. Old logging legends. Supposedly, it mimics sounds, even people. It calls kids. A mountain myth? Carver asked. The ranger looked dead serious. Until it isn't. Carver returned with a forensic team to the crevice where the shoe was found. This time, they dug deeper, this time with GPR, ground-penetrating radar. 3 feet down, wedged between rock layers, they found a fabric-wrapped bundle. Inside, a fleece toddler pajama top, a tiny thermos Kara had packed, cracked, empty, and most horrifying, a weather-worn piece of paper that looked like it had been tucked inside the thermos for protection. On it, faintly written in pencil, "If someone finds this, I can't keep Jacob quiet. He says the man sings to him. I hear to now. Please, if we don't make it, tell Megan we try to run. KW he sings to him." What kind of thing sings to a child in the middle of the Rockies? And why would Kara have sealed a message in a thermos like a time capsule? August 23rd, 2023. Public announcement: the Pueblo County Sheriff's Office held a press conference, carefully choosing their words. While we cannot definitively state the fate of Kara and Jacob Whitmore, recent evidence suggests the presence of previously overlooked factors in their disappearance. At this time, we are reopening the case. Behind the scenes, Carver filed a separate report to the FBI Behavioral Analysis Unit. He labeled the case, "Unidentified subject, rural mimicry case, potential human or non-human actor." Unofficially, it had a nickname already. The Elk Crest Mimic. August 29th, 2023. Night recordings. Carver returned one last time with trail cams and audio sensors. They ran them for 72 hours. On the second night, one camera triggered. Motion detected. Nothing on video. Just leaves moving. But the audio? Clear as day. A woman's voice, soft, echoing, saying, "Jacob, come back. Don't go near him." Then a pause. Then laughter. Deep. Wrong. Not Kara's. Not Jacob's. Something else. When Carver played it for Megan, her blood drained from her face. That's Kara's voice. But she sounds scared. I've never heard her scared like that. Kara vanished 6 years ago. Her body still hasn't been found. But her voice, echoing on new tape, suggests she never truly left the woods. And something else might still be there. Detective Riley Carver was meticulous, and he knew something didn't sit right. The recovered evidence, the shoe, the thermos note, the audio, didn't paint a clear picture. It painted a disturbing one. A child's toy buried with care. A mother's voice warning her son. And something laughing deep in the forest. But who, or what, was responsible? He started by cross-referencing visitor logs from July 2017, especially those who checked in near Kara's trailhead. One name stood out: Alan Grover, a seasonal park maintenance worker who'd signed in the day Kara arrived, but never signed out. The problem? Grover's contract wasn't supposed to start until August. When Carver pulled the ranger station's archive radio logs, he found something unusual. On July 15, 2017, the day after Kara and Jacob set up camp, Grover had radioed in at 2:12 p.m. to say he'd heard a child crying off Elk Crest but couldn't locate the source. The transmission was never followed up on. That was the last official record of him. Grover vanished just like Kara and Jacob, but left no missing persons report, no family inquiry, and no forwarding address. Who was this man, really? During the renewed search near Dead Man's Gulch, a volunteer named Mark Halley stumbled across something odd while scanning with thermal gear. Half buried in the undergrowth, a hunting blind, handmade, old, covered with moss, and positioned with a direct line of sight to the old C-17 campsite. Inside, they found rusted binocular cigarette butts long rotted, an old Polaroid camera with no film, a single snapshot left behind. Face down in the dirt, the photograph had water damage, but when dried and enhanced by the lab, It was unmistakable. Jacob, standing at the edge of the campsite, looking into the trees. Alone. The timestamp was impossible to verify, but the implication was chilling. Someone had been watching them, possibly photographing them for some time. Carver bagged the evidence, but something inside him twisted. Was this about a predator? Someone who tracked a vulnerable mother and child? Or something older? Detective Carver visited retired Ranger Owen Price again, who, after years of silence, finally offered more. Grover wasn't from around here. No background file when he got hired. Showed up in April that year. Said he'd worked in Tennessee parks. Friendly enough, but he asked a lot about quiet areas and places not on tourist maps. Did you get a bad feeling? Didn't trust the way he looked at the woods. Like he wasn't afraid of them. Like he was part of them. Part of them. He once told me there were trails people weren't meant to walk. That some sounds in the trees weren't wind, but memories, old ones. Carver asked if Grover could have harmed Kara and Jacob. Owen stared hard at the floor. I think he brought them there. Or maybe something used him to get to them. Was Grover just a ghost in the records? Or a living conduit for something darker? Digging deeper into the ranger logs, Carver uncovered 2 reports from local campers in the same month of July 2017, both describing similar phenomena. A hiker claimed to hear his own voice calling to him from the woods. Another setter dog froze up and stared into the trees, growling at something unseen. The dog wouldn't move for over an hour. Neither of these reports were logged officially. The ranger on duty? Grover. He dismissed them verbally. No paperwork. No digital trail. But the final thread unraveled with a local woman named Cynthia Rain, a wildlife photographer who'd been camping along the same ridge in July 2017 and kept detailed journals. She came forward after the sheriff's office re-released Kara's case to the public. I was near Ridge Marker, 12 the morning of July 15th. I saw a man walking alone through the woods. No pack, no gear, just a coat and a camera around his neck. He stopped to stare at me for what felt like 10 minutes. Didn't speak, just watched. Was it Grover? I don't know, but something about his eyes felt hollow, like no one was behind them. She'd sketched him in her notebook. Carver compared the sketch to Grover's employment photo. It was a near-perfect match. Carver returned once more to the site, with Rex, the SAR German Shepherd who had participated in the original 2017 search. Rex was now older, slower, but when they approached the crevice where the shoe was found, he stopped cold. Ears up, tail stiff, a low whine in his throat. He refused to step forward, even with encouragement. He backed away, eyes locked on something deep in the woods. Carver swore. For just a moment, he heard a soft rustle like humming. But when he turned, nothing was there. A missing man, a hidden blind, a photo never meant to be seen. Something, or someone, had been watching Kara and Jacob long before they vanished. And whatever it was, might still be watching. The forest didn't want to give up its secrets. But sometimes, it just takes the right voice. 2 weeks after the recovered audio recording of Kara's voice in the woods was analyzed, Detective Riley Carver received a call from a digital forensics specialist working for the FBI's Behavioral Analysis Unit. There's something underneath the final few seconds, she said. Almost masked, like someone tried to overwrite it. She cleaned it up. Carver listened with headphones on in the silence of his apartment. At first, just static. Then, I'm leaving this for Megan. I don't know how much longer I have. Kara's voice. Weary. Trembling. Jacob says the man is calling again. But this time, I heard my own voice. Then another voice, warped, layered under hers. Jacob, come here. Mommy says it's okay. Only it wasn't Kara. Not quite. Something was mimicking her, just slightly off. The vocal patterns were similar, but the inflection was wrong. Like someone wearing her voice, like a mask made of sound. Carver's heart thudded in his ears. Kara didn't just vanish. She tried to fight something that could imitate, manipulate, and isolate her. And she knew it was using her voice to take her son. Megan didn't want to go back. But when Carver called and told her about the hidden message, she made a choice. If she left that message, if she knew it was the end, I want to stand where she stood. I want to feel what she felt. Carver, Megan, and a small tactical SAR unit returned to the base of Dead Man's Gulch. The crevice where the shoe and thermos were found had widened due to recent erosion. The air was cold, despite summer sun. A camera was lowered into the deeper gap. 11 feet down, the lens picked up a shimmer, fabric. They cleared the stone with hand tools. A bundle, decayed, wrapped in plastic and pine needles. It was a backpack, small, water-worn pink. Jacob's. Inside, a tattered sketchbook with drawings clearly done by a toddler. Smiley faces. Trees. Then darker images, tall stick-like men with hollow eyes. One page simply read, "He sings to me when I close my eyes." And at the bottom, wedged between two picture books, a final item, a cell phone. Cracked. Long dead. Karis. Forensic labs were able to extract fragments from the phone's memory card. There were multiple voice memos, but only one video file. Timestamped July 15th, 2017, 8:03 p.m. It was dark. The screen flickered wildly, the image shifting as Kara ran, camera in hand, breath loud, wind rushing through trees. "We're leaving. I don't care where we go." "Something's wrong here," Kara's voice gasped. "He's answering me now, in my own voice. I can hear myself calling to Jacob, but it's not me." The video swings. Briefly, a silhouette appears between the trees, tall, shifting, too thin, arms too long like bones under bark. But worst of all, it has no face. Then Jacob's voice. "Mama, why do you sound like the trees?" Static. Then black. The forest didn't take them by force. It called to them, and wore Kara's love like a lure to drag Jacob away. For weeks, crews searched deeper, careful not to disturb sacred land, but desperate for closure. They found no bones, no confirmed remains, just more scraps, a shredded corner of Kara's trail journal, the cuff of her jacket, a baby sock embedded in tree roots. Carver said it aloud in the post-briefing. It's as if whatever took them didn't want them found. The official statement from the sheriff's office remained cautious. Evidence suggests Kara Whitmore attempted to flee a perceived threat, but both she and her son were lost due to environmental exposure. "We acknowledge compelling anomalies, but cannot speculate beyond recovered material." Unofficially, the search team wouldn't go back in the gulch. One ranger quit outright. "I heard my wife's voice in there," he whispered. "She died 2 years ago. I know what I heard." Megan returned one last time, alone, accompanied only by Carver and a chaplain. At the edge of the ridge near Camp C-17, she planted a small wooden stake. On it, Jacob's name and Kara's favorite quote, one she always repeated as a bedtime story. "The dark can be big, but our hearts are bigger." As they turned to leave, wind rolled through the trees, soft, like a whisper, and just faintly, Megan thought she heard it. "Megan," she turned. No one was there, but she smiled, even through her tears. "I heard you, Kara. I'll carry it forward." They were never truly alone in those woods. Whether by darkness or something older, their voices now live in the wind. And every so often, a camper swears they hear a mother calling softly, "Jacob, come back." 2 months later, autumn crept across the Rockies, covering the trails with a quilt of gold and rust. Elk Crest stood quiet again. Ranger stations emptying for the season, trails less traveled. But for those who knew the story, the woods never felt the same. Detective Riley Carver submitted his final report in early October. It was clinical, measured, careful. Case remains open. No physical remains recovered. Evidence consistent with disoriented subjects experiencing psychosis, environmental confusion, or predation. Further investigation suspended pending new leads. But tucked beneath that report, off record, Carver included a personal addendum for the FBI's private behavioral archive. Unresolved anomaly. Subject mimics. Draws. Weights. Intelligence unknown. Recommend restricted access to gulch sectors until more data is obtained. Of course, that wasn't what the public heard. The official story was this: Kara Whitmore and her son Jacob disappeared due to exposure or an accidental fall. Their belongings were recovered years later, following a natural rock slide. Their deaths, while tragic, were ruled unrecoverable. The case faded again from public attention. But for Megan and those who were there, closure never came. Months after the investigation went quiet, a Boy Scout troop hiking the lower trail swore they heard a woman calling in the woods. Their leader dismissed it, until one of the scouts, 11 years old, snapped a photo with his phone. Later that night, his parents found him sleepwalking outside their tent, barefoot, repeating, "Mama says it's okay now. We can come out." His mother never let him return to the mountains again. Detective Carver resigned 3 months later. Not publicly, quietly. No press, no controversy. He simply moved back to the city, citing burnout and a desire to focus on family. But those close to him knew better. He didn't sleep. He spoke less. And every once in a while, he'd call Megan, not with updates, just to talk. "You ever feel like she's still there?" he asked once. "Not there," Megan replied. "Everywhere, but quiet, like wind through trees." He never asked about the humming again. In an interview for a podcast called Lost and Left Behind, Megan finally spoke out publicly. They didn't get lost. Kara was being hunted, or watched, or followed. "I don't care what they say. My sister wasn't the type to just wander off." The host asked if she believed in anything unnatural. Megan paused. "I don't know what to believe anymore. But whatever it was, it didn't want Kara. It wanted Jacob, and it almost got him." She keeps Jacob's drawing in a frame now, one of the darker ones. A tall man with a hole where his face should be, hands stretching down like vines. "He sings to me when I close my eyes." Sometimes she still hears that line in her dreams. Not every haunting comes from ghosts. Sometimes it comes from something older, something that doesn't forget the names it whispers. In spring 2024, before tourist season reopened, new warning signs were installed near Elk Crest's upper ridge. Caution, unstable terrain, and wildlife activity. Stay on marked trails. No camping beyond Point M23. But one ranger, still anonymous, shared a photo online before the sign went up. Scratched into a wooden trail marker, almost like claw marks, were 3 letters. K+J, no one could explain it. The area around it was undisturbed. No boot prints, no hikers. It had snowed just days earlier. Some said it was an old carving, finally uncovered by wind. Others weren't so sure. Late that summer, Megan took a private hike with her husband and stepdaughter. Not to Elk Crest, but somewhere quieter. A safer ridge, just trees, wind in the sky. Her stepdaughter, Lily, paused near a stream. "Someone's bracelet," she said, pulling a smooth stone from the bank. It wasn't a bracelet. It was a small fabric wristband. Worn, pink, the thread faded, but the stitching still intact. Jacob. Megan stared at it for a long time. Maybe it had washed downstream from the gulch. Maybe it was nothing. But maybe it was her sister's way of saying, "I'm still holding on." We search for answers in the soil, in maps, in bone. But some mysteries are written not in what's found, but in what refuses to stay buried. Some stories end with closure, others with silence. Kara and Jacob Whitmore walked into the Colorado wilderness on a clear summer day, a mother and her son chasing peace beneath the pines. They never came home. What followed, bits of cloth, a child's shoe, a whispered voice on audio tape, wasn't a solution. It was a trail of echoes, fragments that only deepened the mystery. Did they fall victim to nature's cruelty? Or did something older, something unseen, call to them from the trees? We may never know the full truth. Not because it isn't out there, but because the forest doesn't always give answers. Sometimes it gives warnings. So the next time you hear your name whispered in the woods, the next time a familiar voice calls to you, just out of sight, ask yourself, is it really someone you know? Or is it something else, wearing a voice that was never theirs to begin with? Because in the Rockies, some trails don't just lead you deeper into the wild. They lead you somewhere that doesn't want you to come back. Would you follow the voice? Or would you run?